Arizona has a new chief heat officer. It's the first such official in Arizona and the first such a state official in the U.S. And joining us now is Arizona Chief Heat Officer, Dr. Eugene LeVar. Dr. LeVar, good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you're the first. It must be neat to be the first at something, huh?
It is always, but it comes with a certain amount of burden, and I think you have to have some humility when stepping into a role like this.
Well, very good. The Chief Heat Officer, what are you charged with doing?
Basically, that particular role is in charge of the implementation of Governor Hobbs' Extreme Heat Preparedness Plan and overseeing those steps that are needed to get it where it needs to be from heat season to heat season. I also see that role as being a bridge between our local communities and our federal partners to make sure that those communications and anything that needs to go back and forth between those partners occurs in and out of heat season.
Yeah, I want to get to that in a second here, but as far as an agency or an individual, who do you report to?
I report to our Cabinet Executive Officer at the Arizona Department of Health Services, Jenny Cunico.
Okay, and the state agencies that you will be working with include?
Those include the Governor's Office of Resiliency with Director Mahoney, who is a large part and coordinating entity behind the plan. And then we work with all of the state agencies across the board within Arizona.
Let's talk about that plan and the governor's idea of what needs to be. I mean, we can go into this. We've talked about this so much on this program, heat and the problems therein. What realistically can be done?
I think what we're looking at as a first step is really preparation and collaboration. So as we move forward, the heat plan came out in March of this year. And so it's really about preparation stepping into 2024. What can we do to prepare our state agencies, our partners, local communities as we start getting into heat season, which starts in May? And getting those connections done so that we can be ready to take some next steps.
I see that developing and training for community navigators focused on improving access to human service providers. That's included in here. What does that mean?
Well, I think what we really want to do is, as we're looking at cooling centers and some of the services that they can provide, what can we do to expand those touch points to ancillary services such as mental health and healthcare? Because if you have somebody that's available to you, you want to make sure you make those connections.
Those weather shelters and those cooling centers, explain what they are, where they are, and how many of them there are.
Well, there's many across our state, and it kind of varies from area to area, county to county. And we see our most in our urban areas such as Maricopa County and Pima within Tucson and Phoenix. But they're really areas where somebody can go and get some relief from heat. And they can go step in, they can be in an air-conditioned entity, they can go ahead and take a break from that heat and let their temperatures go ahead and lower down. And then what we're hoping as part of the plan too that you just identified is what can we do to be able to make those connection points even more valuable to Arizonans.
Where these shelters and these cooling centers have been, are they being used? Are they being do people know where and what they are?
I think that's a big part of the communication plan identified within the Extreme Heat Preparedness Plan. We do have a website that gets that information out and identifies cooling centers that are reported to us, but we want to make sure that that information is getting to people who really need it.
Updating the heat emergency response. What can you do as a chief heat officer to improve that?
I think what I can do is lean on my background as Assistant Director for Public Health Preparedness and really looking at what we can do from that preparedness perspective. We can look at ways to organize, to streamline communications, and be ready to pull certain levers as we go through heat season in case the needs are there.
Talk about now, you referred to this earlier here, but the collaboration involved with municipalities, along with the state, public-private, I would imagine as well. That's a lot going on there. How are you going to tie it all together?
You know, one of the things we're doing to really tie all those pieces together is we have state-level working groups going on within our state. We cover 6 major areas that we need to be ready for during heat season, and we have over 75 participants from all over the state participating in those work groups, and that covers state agencies, it covers your local municipalities, your counties, private sector, community-based organization, and others.
I know regarding heat and heat concerns, the governor has also pushed for safe and affordable housing. What can you do as a chief heat officer to address something as monumental as that?
You know, from my position as chief heat officer, we're really looking at what can we oversee to make that vision happen. So if you look within the heat plan, it identifies core organizations that are going to be taking some next steps and driving some of those pieces that need to move forward. And we're really looking at what can we do to make sure that gets to the finish line.
Indeed, and again, we had, 625 heat-related deaths in Maricopa County last year. 395 of them were in Phoenix. They've grown the past 3 years. So many of these folks, though, they're unsheltered, they're unhoused, they're homeless. So many there are so many ways to attack that issue and to try to address that issue. What are you going to do about it?
I think we look at any heat-related death as a tragedy, and I think we look at any heat-related death and heat-related illness as preventable. And when we look at the homeless or the unhoused population, I think we really need to be creative and think outside of the box and look for examples that are happening across our state, such as Phoenix, who's extending their hours of cooling centers so that they can be open and available past that 5 o'clock timeline. What can we do to connect those individuals to services if they wish to make those connections? And how can we get communications out to them so they know where to go to be able to get relief? And we really need to start there as we move forward within 24. But we also need to realize that we're not going to solve all heat-related problems in 6 months or less. This is an ongoing process. We hope to take best practices and learn lessons from year to year to improve our stance every year as we go forward.
And I was going to say best practices are tough here because this is a desert environment. We expect temperatures in the 110s. You can't look around to Massachusetts or Wyoming and say, what are you guys doing regarding the heat? True?
That is very true. And there's no national heat plan right now as it stands. So we're really getting in the forefront and seeing what we can do to help mitigate those issues within our state. And I think it's important to also notice, you identified some of those deaths that were within Maricopa County. Preliminary heat-related deaths across the state are over 980. So we see that impact all across the state. And as the chief heat officer within Arizona, it's important that we have a statewide vision and approach.
Dr. Eugene LeVard, Arizona Chief Heat Officer, congratulations on the position and best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.